Imagine a morning. You wake up as usual, getting ready for work. But today, your legs feel heavier than usual. As you head down the stairs, your knees ache so sharply that you need to cling to the railing. You walk out to your car, but your hands are trembling, no longer as steady as they once were. And in that moment, you realize a cold truth. Your body is whispering to you that retirement has arrived, even though you never prepared for it. This story has happened to so many people. They thought they still had 5-10 more years to work, to save, to live as they always had. Then suddenly, a heart attack, a fall, a diagnosis from the doctor, and they were forced to stop immediately. Retirement doesn't arrive according to the date written on paper. It comes like an uninvited guest, knocking at your door without warning. A survey in the United States shows that nearly 40% of people over 60 retire earlier than planned. Not because they wanted to, but because they had no other choice. Among them, 25% were forced to retire due to illness, ranging from high blood pressure and diabetes to heart disease and memory decline. Others left work early because family needed them. Aging parents, a sick spouse, or grandchildren who required care. That means nearly half of us will have to leave work earlier than we ever thought. And yet, for years, we've told ourselves, I'll work until 65. I'm still strong, not yet. Retirement? That's a long way off. But the truth is, retirement creeps closer every day, every restless night, every trembling step, every sudden racing heartbeat. My friends, retirement is not the end. It is simply a transition from a busy life to a new journey. A journey of living for yourself, for your family, for what truly matters. The tragedy is that many people never prepare. They believe they still have time. They ignore the subtle signals their body and life are sending. And then, when retirement arrives suddenly, they feel lost, unready, and in pain. Do you remember the last time you felt true joy at work? Do you remember the last time you went to work without swallowing painkillers first? Do you remember the last time you thought about the future without worrying about choose? If you'd like to walk this journey with me, please subscribe to New Golden Day. This will be our space to prepare together, so retirement is no longer a shock, but a gift of peace from life. There is a truth we must all face. The body never lies. You can try to deny your age. You can tell yourself, I'm still strong. But the body always speaks, one way or another. And the very first signal that retirement is near is when your body no longer withstands pressure the way it once did. Think back to your 30s and 40s. You could work 10 hours straight, then still have the energy to cook dinner, play with your kids or read a book. Pulling an all-nighter for a project? A cup of coffee the next morning was enough to keep you going. But now, just one stressful workday leaves your body drained. One bad night of sleep, and the whole next day feels foggy, your eyes heavy, your steps slow. That is your body whispering, I am not who I used to be. I need rest. A geriatric doctor once said, after age 55, the body's ability to recover from stress is nearly cut in half compared to age 30. A flu, an injury, even a single sleepless night can have lasting effects. And it's not just the body, the mind suffers too. Do you remember the last time you could focus for 3 or 4 hours straight? Today, many at age 60 admit, after just one intense hour, their mind feels tired, vision blurs, their heart races. According to Harvard Medical School, after age 60, the brain's processing speed declines on average by about 20%. That means the challenges that once felt easy at 40 now feel like mountains at 60. I once heard a story from an uncle, a construction engineer. He said, back in the day, I could climb scaffolding 8 hours straight. Now, at 58, just standing 2 hours in the sun makes my heart pound and sweat pour like rain. That's my body telling me, it's time. The sad part is, many people ignore these signals. They think, just push a few more years. They swallow painkillers to keep working. They drink more coffee, pop sleeping pills, force their body to run like a machine. But the body never forgives. It may let you cheat once, ever planned. My friends, remember this. Retiring is not failure. It is listening to your body. When you were young, you lived to work. As you grow older, you work to live. And sometimes living means knowing when to stop, before it's too late. Think about it. If you push through today, you might add a few more dollars to your account. But if tomorrow you collapse from exhaustion, will that money matter? If you finish one more project, but tomorrow you're in a hospital bed, will that project still be important? In many cases, retiring early isn't about losing. It's about preserving your health, preserving your time with loved ones, preserving your chance to live fully in the years you still have. That's why the first signal, the body no longer enduring pressure, is a warning you cannot ignore. One morning, you sit quietly with your coffee, staring at a crowded calendar, and you ask yourself, why am I still doing this? That question didn't exist in your 30s, when you were excited for challenges, when every meeting, every project, every contract signed filled you with pride. But at some point, in your late 50s or 60s, that excitement fades. Work that once gave you life now feels like a burden. What once brought joy now only brings sighs. A friend of mine, Linda, once loved her accounting career. She said she enjoyed balancing numbers, the accuracy, the sense of responsibility. But at 59, she admitted, "Every day I turn on the computer, I feel empty. I work because I must, not because it means anything anymore." Her story isn't rare. Many people in their later years realize they no longer find joy in the work they gave their lives to. According to Gallup, nearly 2/3 of workers over 55 admit their jobs no longer bring engagement or inspiration. They still go to the office, still fulfill responsibilities, but inside, they are just passing days. Joy is replaced by fatigue, by depletion, by endless repetition. And that quiet depletion is a clear signal that retirement is drawing near. The scariest thing isn't hard work. It's working when your heart is no longer in it. When joy disappears, work becomes a tightening chain. You wake up no longer excited for the day, but counting hours until it ends. Joy elsewhere. And he did. After retiring, he started gardening, writing his memoir, joining book clubs. He said he had never felt so light-hearted, like he had rediscovered a smile he lost long ago. My friends, if you realize that in your work, smiles are rare, excitement is gone, and each day feels like endurance, that is a signal that it may be time to prepare for a transition, from the grind of work to a new journey, where joy can be found again in simpler things. Retirement is not giving up, it is protecting your joy, because if work has become only boredom, then you are wasting the most precious years of your life on something that no longer makes you happy. And old age, more than any other time, deserves to be lived in joy. If you've ever felt your work no longer brings you joy, share your story in the comments below. Perhaps your words will help someone else see they are not alone. And don't forget to subscribe to New Golden Day, so together we can rediscover what makes us happy, even after we've set our careers aside. There is a truth few of us want to face. Finances are just like health. When you are young, you believe you are strong, untouchable. But over time, small cracks begin to appear. One day, you wake up to a sobering realization. I'm not as financially secure as I thought. Many people believe that retirement is when they will finally be financially stable. They imagine that pensions, savings, and insurance will be enough for a comfortable life. But reality paints a different picture. By the time many reach 55 or 60, their financial situation begins to show alarming gaps. Rising medical costs, unexpected illnesses, and the steady climb of daily expenses all shake the foundation of financial health. Perhaps you once felt reassured by your bank account balance. But then came one hospital stay, One massive prescription bill, one unexpected expense. And suddenly, you realize your money may not be enough to carry you through old age. I once heard the story of a man named Samuel in Texas. He worked hard his whole life, saving up a decent nest egg. He believed that with those savings, he could retire with peace of mind. But at 62, he was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Medication, treatment, and strict dietary costs quickly drained his savings. He said, "I thought my money could last me 20 years, but in just 3, half of it was gone." That's when I knew retirement wasn't some distant idea. It was a reality I had to prepare for immediately. According to Fidelity Investments, the average American couple retiring at 65 will need about $315,000 just to cover healthcare for the rest of their lives. That staggering number forces many to consider retiring earlier, not because they want to, but because they need to reduce financial pressure, to restructure their lives before it's too late. Financial health isn't only about the number in your bank account, it's about the sense of security. If every month you worry whether your pension is enough, whether insurance will cover a crisis, whether one accident could empty your pockets, that is already a signal. A signal that it's time to reassess your financial picture, to consider stepping away from work earlier so you can reorganize your life. I remember a woman I met at a retirement seminar. She shared that that's why, when you notice your financial health wobbling, when unexpected expenses pile up, when worry outweighs peace of mind, that is a signal that maybe it's time to retire early, to protect yourself from a bigger financial storm. So ask yourself, if tomorrow you had to cover a huge medical bill, would you still be secure? If you stopped working today, would you live comfortably or anxiously month to month? And if money continues to weigh on you, will you still have the health to enjoy old age? Sometimes retiring early is a way to restore balance. You may live more simply, cut back on unnecessary spending, but in return, you gain peace of mind. You stop running in life's endless money race. In the end, what we need isn't endless wealth, but an old age free from heavy worry. And when your finances begin to falter, that is the clear signal it's time to stop and realign your life. Perhaps one of the clearest signals that it's time to retire is when you realize that while work matters, family matters far more. Think about your parents, if they're still alive. They may be in their 80s or 90s, growing weaker by the day. How many times have you told yourself, "I'll visit tomorrow," only for tomorrow to stretch on until it's too late? Think about your spouse, who has walked by your side for decades. While you rush through work, they sit quietly, waiting. And one day, they turn to you with eyes that seem to ask, "When will you finally have time for me?" That is the signal that you need to stop, because family cannot wait forever. I once heard of a man in New Jersey who worked in banking, very successful. He planned to work 5 more years before retiring. Then his wife was diagnosed with cancer. That's when he understood. No success, no amount of money meant anything if he couldn't be by her side during her final years. He retired immediately, choosing instead to walk with her in the park, cook meals together, and simply hold her hand each night. He said, "I signed thousands of contracts in my life, but the most important contract I ever signed was my promise to my wife, to be there until the very end." Family often doesn't speak it, but because your family needs you more than anything else. One day, you may earn another paycheck, sign another contract, but you will never again have that evening meal with your mother, that family dinner with laughter, that precious smile from your grandchild. Those moments, once gone, never return. That is why retirement is not the end of your career. It is the greatest gift you can give your family. Your time, your presence, your love. If you've ever had to choose between work and family, Share your story in the comments. Your story may help someone else realize that family is the most valuable treasure of all. And don't forget to subscribe to New Golden Day, so we can learn together how to cherish and preserve that treasure called family. Then there are days when you sit in the office, staring at dozens of unanswered emails, back-to-back meetings, and a mountain of reports. But instead of diving in, you sigh and ask yourself, how many years have I spent just doing this? How many do I have left to actually live for myself? That is another unmistakable signal. Because when you start thinking about the meaning of life more than money, more than career, more than success, you've entered a new stage of life. When we are young, we chase goals. Buying a house, raising children, earning promotions, proving ourselves. Our joy is tied to achievements. But by 55 or 60, something inside shifts. Numbers on contracts no longer stir your heart. Instead, you crave something else. Peace, tranquility, real connection. A friend of mine, Robert, once a corporate executive, said, "When I was young, I loved money, loved status. But at 60, sitting in a luxurious boardroom, I only felt empty. I thought, if these are my final years, why am I wasting them inside four walls?" So he retired early. He spent his time gardening, traveling with his wife, teaching underprivileged students for free. He told me, "For the first time in decades, I feel I am truly living with meaning." When you start asking questions like, what do I want to leave behind? How do I want my children and grandchildren to remember me? If I only had 5 years left, how give up, but to rediscover? Because in the end, the meaning of life is not in yesterday's report, not in the bank account figure, but in the moments you truly laugh, truly love, and truly live. When that time comes, retirement is no longer an ending, it becomes a new beginning. A chance to write the next chapter with deeper purpose. A chapter measured not by busyness, but by peace in the soul. One day, you sit in your familiar office, open the computer that has been with you for years, and suddenly realize nothing around you has really changed. It's still the same old tasks, the same procedures, the same meetings. And deep down, you know, no matter how hard you try, this career will no longer bring you a new opportunity. That is the 6th signal. When we are young, we live on hope. Hope for a promotion, a chance to learn, a turning point that opens a new door. But after 55 or 60, those doors begin to close. You may still be working, but the work has become repetition. And repetition is the silent enemy of the soul. A colleague of mine once said, "What wears me down isn't the pressure. It's the feeling that I'm not moving forward anymore. I'm standing at the end of the road, pretending to keep walking." He had worked in advertising for more than 25 years. Once, he was excited about every idea, every project. But at 58, he realized he was no longer trusted with major campaigns. Meetings no longer waited for his opinion. Younger colleagues had become the center, and he understood. His career had reached its end. That is not failure. It is simply the natural order. Every career has a curve. It rises, and then it falls. And when you find yourself on the downward slope, when there are no more promotions, no more new lessons, that is the signal. It's time to prepare to step off the wheel. A study from the Sloan Center on Aging and Work at Boston College showed that more than 60% of older workers felt their careers had stalled in the 5 years before retirement. They were no longer being trained, no longer given new roles. They kept working out of duty, for a paycheck, out of habit, and it left them feeling like clocks that had stopped ticking. My friends, have you ever felt that way? That what you do today will look exactly the same tomorrow, with no new spark? That no matter how much effort you put in, no one is going to hand you a step higher, a path farther? If your answer is yes, then it's time to admit, maybe your career has completed its course, and the rest of your life needs a new direction. Retirement, in this case, is not giving up. It is a wise choice. Here. Now I will go find the next part. So, my friends, if your current job feels like nothing but a loop, if you feel your voice is no longer heard, if you feel your career is just a shadow of what it once was, that is the signal. The signal that you've reached the end of the old road and it's time to step into a new journey, a journey called retirement. Then one day, you sit in the same old office, look out the window, and see sunlight stretching across the street. You hear children laughing. You see an elderly couple walking slowly, hand in hand. And deep inside, a question rises. Why am I still here, buried in papers, calls and meetings, when real life is happening out there? That is not a random thought. It is a quiet signal from your heart, telling you that you are beginning to crave freedom. Freedom from the cycle that has held you for decades. In youth, you lived to prove, to strive, to climb the ladder of success. But after 55 or 60, your heart whispers something different. I don't want another promotion. I don't want another contract. I don't want endless appointments. I just want to live a day in my own rhythm. I want mornings without alarms, afternoons without deadlines, evenings without unfinished reports. I want the freedom to read a book without rushing, to walk by the river at sunset, to listen to the rain without worrying about waking early tomorrow. That isn't laziness. It is the natural longing of a heart that has carried responsibility for decades. After a lifetime of working, raising children, and holding a family together, you deserve days that belong only to you. A survey in the United States once revealed that 70% of people over 60 retire not because of illness or money, but because they want freedom. Freedom to live as they choose. Freedom to enjoy the simple things their jobs once stole away. I once spoke with a grandmother who retired at 60. I asked, "Do you ever regret stopping earlier than your colleagues?" She smiled and said, "No, never. I worked 35 years. That was enough. I didn't want to spend my last years in an office. I wanted to take my Retirement is not letting go. It is a beginning. A beginning of a new rhythm. A new journey where you get to choose what matters most. After decades of work, responsibility, and chasing numbers, you finally reach a point where life itself asks you, "Now, what do you truly want?" Some people have told me that the moment they signed their retirement papers, they felt empty. But soon after, they realized that emptiness was opportunity. An opportunity to sit and drink tea without rushing, to talk with their spouse without a phone interrupting, to call their children or grandchildren and ask about the little things. An opportunity to live, not just to work. In truth, whether retirement comes early or late matters less than how you receive it. If you see it as an ending, you will feel lost and afraid. But if you see it as a door, you will find an open sky beyond it. That sky may be time with family, unfinished travels, small dreams set aside in youth, or simply the freedom to wake later, stroll in the park, or learn something new for yourself. My friends, life is shorter than we think. None of us knows what tomorrow brings. We've spent so many years worrying about work, about money, about fleeting things. But after 60, after 65, we begin to understand. What remains is not titles or wealth, but the moments we live fully with ourselves and those we love. Retirement, if you think carefully, is a ticket home. Home to family, home to your soul, home to the peace you've spent a lifetime searching for. Don't be afraid if you've begun to notice the signals: a tired body, fading joy in work, unstable finances, a family that needs you, a heart that longs for freedom. These are not endings. They are gentle reminders that it's time to live differently. And when you listen, when you dare to stop, you will realize retirement is not losing. It is finding again. Let every day after retirement be not a worry, but a gift. Let your later years be not just more years lived, but years lived fully. And before we end, let me remind you, life never waits. If today you feel these signals in your heart, don't delay. Begin preparing. Begin living differently.